Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. What's up, George? What's going on in the House of Craze tonight?
In the House of Craze tonight, we are going to be talking to a returning guest. Mr. Mark Bernal will be back talking to us about Either Them or Us, which is a comic book that's on Kickstarter from his company, Lesser Known Comics. So we're going to be talking to him, and we're going to be discussing, too many indies, not enough fans. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, it better be them, not us. I'm just saying. Let's get it.
We are the only show for independents all around, giving you a platform to spread your word all over town. Cast the Craze is the place to promote to your fans with the dream of Medina and Sam the Crazy Man. Subscribe to our show and never miss an episode. It's time to get your meds, listen to us on the go. Updated every week, we never miss a day. Join the squad, come on in. It's time to catch the Craze. If you are an independent, catch the Craze. Making moves on your own, catch the Craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the Craze. Join the movement, catch the Craze.
Yeah, George, we did it again. Come on now. You know you want to do it. Catch the Craze. Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast. I'm your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera, and I am with
George the Dreamer Medina. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to another exciting episode of Catch the Craze. It is Tuesday, October 25th. It is 8 p.m. here in the East Coast, 7 p.m. where Sammy's at, and we're coming to you live. We're going to have a guest tonight. We're doing the same format. We're bringing this live to you guys. We're going to be talking, a little Get Your Meds segment, indie news, all kinds of fun stuff tonight. But before we do that, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a like, comment, hit the bell so you know when we are going live, which is usually on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. and, of course, on Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. on the Morning Brew with the Crazy Crew. So, with that being said, what's going on? Sammy, how you feeling this evening?
Feelings, whoa, feelings. I don't know, bro. I just got back from Cowtown.
Oh, right, that's right, Cowtown.
Yes. So they promoted the hell out of it.
Yes.
It had a lot of exposure, but it wasn't the right show for me. It was definitely not the show for me. There was a lot of toy collectors, novelty collectors, not really much into indie comics. There was several of us that, we were chatting it up. And so I had a moderate reception to it's something that I'm not used to. And so I'm glad I did it because I'm in Texas. I'm trying out new conventions out here for the first time and seeing what works, what doesn't work. So it was a good lesson for me. Just somebody. It just sucks that you got to take a hit. So shout out to the guys at Cowtown. I mean, my spot was ideal. My size of my booth was legit. The promotion was was like over the top, but it just wasn't the crowd for me.
Yeah. Hey man, that happens. Sometimes, you don't know what you're going to get at some of these conventions. Sometimes you hit it big, and sometimes, it doesn't work out.
And sometimes you got to go to the wick line.
Yeah, the why. Wow, the why is the question, right? Because obviously, part of our job at these conventions is to make the sale, right? Part of the convention's job is to make sure that there are people there for you to make the sale to. The other thing I think that has to happen at a convention also is that I guess the right vendors are situated in the right places.
Yeah.
Now, your placement was cool. You had a nice placement.
My size was good.
Especially what's around you as well.
It's just I was surrounded by vendors. Right. So I wasn't surrounded by my peers. Right. So I think, an event like this, I think they should have indie creators together, pinup artists together, and vendors together, and I think because then now the consumer knows that they're there for a purpose. I know that I go into this zone. I'm there specifically for new comics from independent creators and blah blah blah. I go to this zone. I'm there for toys. I think in my zone, to my right, to my left, in front of me, it was all vendors. There was nobody else, and so the vendors were doing great. I mean, the vendors were having a ball. Um, it's just trying to get their attention. When this guy's selling Funko Pops here, this one's selling soaps and candles, which was crazy right here. This one's selling T-shirts here. This one's selling novelty items here, or licensed product. Uh, it was hard to grab people's attention because if there was a group and I caught one person's attention, someone would be like, "Hey, look at this Funko Pop. Weren't you looking for this?" They're gone. So and they were easily distracted. So it wasn't like there's like a etiquette. There's a rules of engagement when you're with other. Well, at least they know the unspoken rules that you let them have the conversation with you, and then they move down to the next table, whatever it is. So over here, the vendors were just scooping them up.
So were they saying like almost like how we joke about tops in the Bronx, like were they doing that kind of thing?
One vendor had music. They had a boombox and they were playing music, and it was right across from me. And people were going, and they had a tent, so people coming inside that tent. They were, I mean, the vendors were going, they were playing to win. Yeah, and so it was it was tough for me, especially when you're by yourself. You don't have a squad of people going out there trying to pull people in. I was offering things for free with every sale. It just I kept losing them to somebody's one of the vendors.
Damn. Well, that stinks.
Yeah. So it definitely wasn't for me. So so far this year I did 5 events in Texas. 2 I will repeat. The other 3 I will not.
Right.
One of them I will if they just did it a Saturday show. It should not be a 3-day show. I just filled out a survey. They sent me a survey, and I explained the reason. I said, "Look, you're not a 3-day show. You had nobody there on Friday. They must have brought in like maybe 150, 200 people on Friday because they opened up at 4 p.m. at night. So I'm like, that's a waste of time. Why even bother? Get rid of Friday, and if you're gonna do Saturday and Sunday, then you need to spread out the people that are drawing in the traffic, right? Because you need the names that are going to bring the traffic in, right? They only had the names on Saturday, so Sunday dropped off significantly. So Saturday I did extremely well, but Friday and Sunday were poor because they didn't have the traffic. And so I was like, look, if you do a 1-day show Saturday, I'm there. If you're doing 3-day shows, I'll pass.
Well, do you think that is it because of the way they promoted the show? Like, why don't they get people there on Friday and Sunday? Like that just seems weird.
I think I don't know. I mean, I think they open up so late on Friday. I know, and so I think people getting out of work. I'm not sure if they want to go to a Comic-Con or they want to go to the movies, or they want to go to the bar, or they want to go to the club, or they want to, what I'm saying. So I'm not sure. Am I going to go to a Comic-Con or I'm going to go, hang out with the squad on a Friday night at 4 p.m. Normally people will go if they're there the whole day. They're good, but I'm going to go from 5 to 9, from 4 to 9. I'm not sure. I'll wait for Saturday. And Saturday they had some names. They had the cast of Game of Thrones, or the House of the Dragons. But Sunday it dipped, and then I think Sunday was mostly cosplayers. It was just a few hundred cosplayers walking around.
Yeah, that's weird, man. I mean, I guess it depends on how much they charge for the table. Because if they're charging, how much did they charge for a table?
I made my table at that event because of Saturday. It was Friday, nothing happened. Like Friday, there was nothing.
I just feel like if the table's affordable, a 3-day show is good. It's just a matter of them trying to get people. They need to find a way to get people in the door the other 2 days. Then I think it's worth it.
We had that conversation. I think rather than focusing on just celebrities, I think they need to have. I think if you're going to have an independent, small press arena, independent creators, then you need to have a headliner in that community, a hot name in the independent world, like Jake Parker or whatever, in that community, because that's going to bring in that crowd. Same thing, in cosplay. They always bring these big name cosplayers for all those cosplayers to come in. They bring in the celebrities. And then for the mainstream collectors, they always bring in a big name writer from Marvel or DC or an artist. They got to do the same thing with the independent community. You got to have a name that's a draw. For the so that the smaller guys who don't have that recognition can capitalize because that crowd's there for independent comics and they like that style. And especially if you have a style similar to the guys, you'll have a chance. But you need to be able to bring a crowd for every destination that you have on your selling floor. You got to treat each block, each zone like its own block in a neighborhood, right? So this block, we need to have something that's going on here that's going to bring people in, that's going to pop off. Over here, we need this. Over here, we need that. I think that's what, if I was the marketing manager for a comic event, I would treat each zone as a destination and figure out what's the headliner, what's going to be the draw to drive traffic into that pit.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I think, well, and we're going to be talking about this in a little bit, but the India, there are a lot of indies out there, and it's about getting enough people through the door that's going to want to spend the money on the indie that's at that show when other things are being sold at the show, right? Because it's like, if you have $5 in your pocket, are you going to spend it on a comic that you don't know the person who created the comic, or you don't know about the comic book, or are you going to throw another $35 down and just pick up a Funko Pop for $40?
Right.
And those are decisions that apparently at the last convention you were at, people were rather pay more money for something they knew than less money for something they had no idea what it was.
Yes, I got at least 50 people took my business card.
Right.
Can I get your business card? Can I use your business card? Right? So I was like, yeah, I'll give you my business card, but everything you're going to see on my website is right here, right now that you can walk away with. So I'm trying to convince, but again, it was, you saw a lot of bags of toys. You see a lot of bags filled with toys and collectibles. And then, full power to you. That it's, for me, it felt like it was more of a collector's show and a novelty show than it was an independent comic show. So I think for me, what's guaranteed next year is Denton. I'm going to do that again. And the Fan Expo, I'm going to do that again. I did really well at both those events. So I'll be repeating those. The Arlington, was not a good show for guys like me. And neither was Fan Festival. At Fan Festival, I made back my table and I made back my travel costs and I made back the food and gas, the food costs. But I didn't, there was no profit made from that. And then this one was just flatline. It was just like, and it went plasma, dog plasma. Say, pump his heart. We lost him. It was like that drive back home was like, oh, damn.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, my brother. So listen, we're going to be talking to Mark Bernal in a few minutes. Just for those who don't know who Mark is, he is the president, CEO. We're going to call him the man in charge over at Lesser Known Comics. And he was actually on the show. This is going to be our, I think who was it? Dan Price, I believe, coined this phrase. The Crazery. I think Craze, what would he call it? The Catch the Crazery? It was like an anniversary. It's been a year since he was here. It's been a year. Right. On October of last year, we spoke to him, and we aired the program actually on the 19th.
Oh, it is an anniversary.
Yeah, 300.
I hope you bought flowers.
300 episode 333 was when he was last here, and he was on with Jackie.
That's right.
And we had a great conversation. You got to know him a little bit. We're happy to have him back to talk more about what's been going on in the last year. So I love to have these like catch up thing. We're like, okay, it's been a year. What's going on? So he's obviously still doing his thing. Got a Kickstarter out right now for a book that he wrote. And we're going to be talking to him about that, either them or us. Awesome title that is actually almost funded. It's got 12 days.
Well, yeah, I think he got 3 new backers today, because when I first looked at it this morning, it was at 47 backers, and then I seen it jumped up to 50. Yeah. So he's $140 away from goal, and 12 days to go.
Yep. So November 6th at 11:59 p.m. on the East Coast is when that will end. That's on a Sunday. So yeah, so we're going to be talking to him about that. Looks like a very, very fun project. Can't wait to have a chat with him. But before we get into that, Sammy, why don't we go into the get your meds, bro?
Is the hemorrhoids acting up again? Let's get it.
It's time for your medicine.
Too many indies, not enough indie fans. Oh, say it ain't so.
What's going on? Is that what's happening, Sam?
It
Is it?
seems like that. It
Is,
appears that way.
is it? It appears like we have tons of products out there. We got tons of product. You have tons of product to choose from. There are a lot of indies that are out there doing their thing, putting out books, Kickstarters galore. We see a lot of that. But are there enough fans of the indie books to help us out and make profits, or fund Kickstarters, go to conventions and spend money at our table? Are there enough indie fans? What do you think?
I don't think I don't think there is. And so I don't the indie community is so sporadic because it is not one genre, not one theme. There's not a specific the age of the image era, that stuff is over, right? So now you have a lot of individuals that flooded the gates. It was like what was that movie with what's his name? Um Brad Pitt with the zombies. He's
Yeah.
what was the name of that movie? Well,
Yes.
COVID hit, and then everybody who had a dream, everybody who had an aspiration with the lockdown and losing their job, I'm gonna go and fulfill my dream, and I'm gonna create a comic, and they flooded the gates.
Mhm.
And because there's so much content out there, I'm not sure if there is a die-hard independent community. World War Z, hey, what's up, Gilly in the house?
Yeah, what
World
up,
War
Gil?
Z, and let's see,
World
but
War
definitely
Z, yes.
even traditional publishing, there is a concern that there are people writing books, and then there are people who buy them. Yeah.
It's happiness.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think what happens is there's so much content. And so what happens is there could be that shock factor, that overwhelming factor. I don't know if this guy's going to be around for the third, fourth, fifth issue. I'm going to stick with Spider-Man because I know that's going to be there forever. I'm gonna go stick with Aquaman or whatever it is because they've been around, and they've already established a foundation. And I think because there's so much, no, it's hard to pick. And I think indies, what I've seen is relied on other indies for support in these communities and all that stuff. So it seems like the indie community is promoting to each other, where the difference with a manga community is that there's a true fan base on manga, right? And so I can't tell you who the indie fan is, and if
Yeah.
you can, you let me know, because there isn't one specific thing that attracts. There's so much there's so many different stories, so many different genres, so many different. I'm not sure if there is. There might be somebody who likes the people who are capitalizing on sex. There's going to be an audience for that. The people who are capitalizing on monsters and Cthulhu, there's going to be an audience for that, right? Outside of what there's a direct cult following for,
Mhm.
I'm not sure where that fits, and that's
Yeah.
just my perspective.
Yeah, I think that it's like Daphne just made a point about, even in just the traditional, not traditional, the mainstream comics, there are more people creating them. There are people writing them, or reading them, I should say.
Right.
And I think that also comes down to the people reading the comics. Are there enough people reading comics today? Kids, for example, they're doing video games. They're gaming. They're not necessarily, they're going to the movies. They'd rather see a live action, or maybe just a show on Disney Plus, play a video game, than go to your local comic book shop and pick up a comic.
Mhm.
That's what we do. We still like to do that. I love going on Wednesdays to my local shop. Big shout out to the Spider's Web. I love going there on Wednesdays to pick up some books. But who else is doing that? Are there enough people doing it? And that's the thing. When you go into those stores, that the indie section is over here. But like you said, that person picks up that book. Will that book be there next month? You mentioned manga. Manga in some cases comes out weekly, and when they come out, they're like this thick. You got a full. You know what I mean? Like we're writing books that are this thick, and they're charging a lot less, even though it's in black and white. So it's kind of hard to compete with that. But where are the fans? And you're right about the fact that as indies, we try to support each other, right? But
Oh, yeah.
we're supporting each other, but are we building the fan base? And that is the question.
Right.
What
And
was
this
Stephanie
is
saying? Yeah.
She says people would rather buy Spider-Man because it's always there, but at the same time, if you have more than 3 issues on your table, people think that's too much commitment for an unknown. it's crazy. It's a catch 22, right?
It is.
You're caught
It
between a
is.
rock and a hard place because especially if they've never heard of you. You got that many issues. I've never heard of you. Where is this at? Are you in stores? Are you, all these questions come in. And the majority of indies are not in stores. They're self-publishing through their website or whatever, print on demand. And sometimes people don't understand that. But, I had an interesting conversation with a high school student. And his father is an independent comic creator. He says the only reason why he goes to comic shops is to support his father, but he's never been to a comic shop outside of his father. And his buddies don't do it. He says he doesn't have a social life. His buddies don't hang out. They go home from school and they're on the gaming and they're communicating through gaming. They don't play sports. They don't do any of those things. So how what's the future hold if we're having such a tough time now and there's such a dependence on independent supportive independence? How are we going to break the mold and get to the non-independent, just the consumer? And being on JD Rosario show the other night, one of the things that he did a speaking engagement, and he introduced his craft to an audience that never heard of him or what he does, but he sold books, he got his name out there. I think that's how. And I think breaking away from the independent community from a promotional standpoint and going out to the community and finding out what to do in your own neighborhood and your grassroots, that's going to change it. Because if not, we're going to bury ourselves if we keep relying on each other, because it's finicky. Everybody's fickle.
The thing is, the reason why we're putting these things out together is to raise money so we can print our stuff. So when we're trying to help each other out, and yeah, I want to give money to my fellow indies so they can go get their stuff funded, but I also need that money to get my stuff funded. So all we're doing is just swapping money. You know what I mean? We're not really, all we're just doing is just swapping. I gave you money, you give me that money back. And that's all we're doing as we go along. And listen, with shipping costs and all that other stuff, books are getting more and more expensive on Kickstarter. And, we're charging each other more money in some cases. We got to try to start building that fan base that's going to pay for that. And then that way what we're doing is sharing it and making sure people know that we are out there. I think if we did more of that, obviously the money is obviously what we want, what we need. But right. I think that as indies, if we're sharing each other's project out there, that helps tremendously, because it opens it up to a new audience. And wholeheartedly, I'm not talking about just like, I'm talking about put it out there, help your fellow indie out. I think that's one way to do it. But the other thing is also, I've gone to graphic novels, dude. Like I don't even do single issues. And it's because it costs a lot of money to do the single issues, the floppies as we call them. I guess we can do that on Kickstarter. But once we hit the stores, it's almost like graphic novels the way to go, because longer shelf life, you know what I mean? And you can put more on a page there. Inside of a book, where people just support you because they just like you as a YouTube personality. It gets harder to raise backer accounts as campaigns go on. Yeah, because you get the fatigue, the Kickstarter fatigue. It's like, oh shoot, I can't do it this week. And the problem with that too is that I almost feel like people feel bad that they can't support you, so they just avoid you.
Yes, you get that too.
Yeah, right, I can't really. So let me just not, let me just avoid.
You don't hear from them for few. You don't hear from them until the campaign's over.
Campaign's over. What up, man?
Hey, what's up? How you been?
What's up, brother? But it's because we feel bad, bro. Like we may not have it that week.
Right.
It's a tough month. But yeah, it's interesting. I just think that we got to figure out a way to create that buzz. And like you said, speaking engagement is a great thing. It's all that grassroots thing. Now that COVID is over, we can go back out there and meet the people that we should be meeting, the fan base, talking to them, getting to know them. Conventions are great for that, even though some of them may stink because people don't show up. But it's something that we have to do, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, I was having that conversation with a couple of artists at the event this weekend about, they're all locals in Texas, and they were like, hey, why don't we meet up and figure out how to grow an audience? And I said to one of them is doing it right. I mean, he's going door to door. I mean, he's going to every comic shop. He's going to, he's doing all the things that we talk about, right? And so I think the biggest thing is figure out who your target audience is and go after that audience. And sometimes you need to find somebody who understands that demographic, and you might have to, instead of investing on all these other things that are not going to help you grow your business, maybe invest in somebody who understands this market and have them lead the way to get yourself through those doors, because it's tough enough as it is. There's so much noise and so much content, and to get somebody to settle down and say, do I buy this or do I buy that? Do I invest? You know what I'm saying? And so um, it's hard, it's difficult, but I think the indie community is not going to. It's great for networking, but it isn't going to. It's not sustainable for long term. You want a fan. You want somebody who actually loves your book. If you get other indie creator who actually loves what you do and supports you, bravo. But when you're promoting to each other all day, every day,
Yeah.
you're gonna have feelings. You're gonna have people who are annoyed with your promotion tactics. They're gonna say, "Oh, this guy's a spam, or this girl's a this, or this guy's a that. I'm tired of seeing this stuff and whatever." That's not who your audience is. You're not reaching your market. You need to get to the people who are not in those communities, and that's where you need to make your focus. If not, we're gonna die. The indie whole idea of the indie comics is gonna fall.
Yeah, we had a topic last week about comic book shops, and are they the villains for not letting us in their stores or whatever. And on my I posted on Facebook, and JD Rosario, you mentioned him before. Big shout out to him. He made an interesting point, and I'm gonna read it to you. He says, "Why is anyone wasting time going to comic book shops if they are not carried by distributors? I know it's hard to say, but the distributor stamp alone carries with it a sense of legitimacy that we do not have as self-publishers. I'm not saying that we're not legitimate, but from their eyes, and make the vetting process easier. Aside from that, the time you spend trying to collect your revenue or even finding out if any of the books sold can be better spent producing more content and how you direct to customers." So, and JD's a big proponent of, printing in bulk so that you have enough, even at conventions, to be able to give stuff away, to be able to, because you could play with that a little more. Buy one, get one free.
Yeah.
And so I found that interesting. Do you think that we should be going the distributor route rather than not rather? And I don't know if you meant rather. We'd have to ask him. I don't know if you
I
thought
had
that.
yeah, I had that
But
debate with somebody at the con,
yeah,
and one of the things was like, why aren't you going to distributor? I said, number one, let's put Diamond as the focus, right? So Diamond, they want a marketing strategy. They want to know what your marketing budget is. They want to know how you're going to get the word out about your content. Um, then they want to know they want to see at least 3 issues. If I was to go that route with Diamond, it would be a graphic novel, it wouldn't be a floppy, right? But just a one shot, it's done, like Forbidden. So 160 pages is done. That's what I would pitch to them. But then I would need to raise the capital to make sure I have that in reserves for I don't know what that order is going to look like. And I know that just because it's in previews doesn't mean I'm going to let that doesn't mean that the stores are going to want to pick it up. I'd have to do the legwork and
you still
start
have to hit
counting.
the stores.
Yes,
You still have,
contacting
yeah.
the stores. That yo, I'm in previews. Can you check this
That-
out? It's all that stuff. So I'm not ready to go that route yet because
Right.
I'm trying to avoid being a publisher.
Well, I think that that's the thing. I mean, this distribution, and big shout. I wish JD was on because we've talked to him, but I think distribution is great. It does make you, because I remember when we were coming up, people would say, "Oh, are you in Diamond?" Be like, "No," and they're like, "All right, well, when you're in Diamond," it's like, really, you're gonna buy it when we're in Diamond? Are you a store? But it gave you that sense of, oh, these guys are legit if they're in Diamond. That was like the thing, right? But it's like you said, you still have to go to the stores. From here to Jersey, and all of them said if I wasn't in Diamond, they weren't interested in hustling individual stores. Is not good. So Daphne, so there you go. So Daphne, so they wouldn't listen to you unless you were in Diamond first. So it's like it's like a catch-22. You gotta
And sometimes,
both.
and then
It's
you
like
gotta
it's insane.
understand. I also I gotta put myself in the retailer spot because I think sometimes we take it personal, right? So I gotta think about it as a retailer
Oh,
spot.
of course.
I'm giving away real estate, right? So every piece of
That's
real
a good
estate
point.
costs, there's ROI on that little square spot, right? So I'm gonna take it on you. You don't even have a marketing strategy. You can't get into Diamond. That means that there's no guarantee that I'm going to see you again with the next issue. I'm not going to do that to myself. And I don't know. And I don't see, I'm going to look at your social media profiles. You don't have a following. I'm not interested. You know what I mean? So there's got to, from a business standpoint, I get it. They don't want to take the risk because they'd rather give that shelf space to Boom Studios if they're going to go indie route than because they have a track record and we don't. And especially if they do it to one, then 50 other people are going to come in the doors and say, "Hey, I got a book, I got a book, I got a book, I got a book." And they don't want that. So they got to have a stance. Unless you know the person and you made, one person is very successful with it. He's in 25 stores in Texas, Paul Gomez. but it's a lot of work. He drives to these locations, he drops them off, he does all those things. It's a lot of work.
Here's the other question, right? And I know we got to get to our guest, but here's the other question is, right? What is your end game? Is your end game to be an indie publisher forever? Or is your end game to be somebody who starts off this way and then maybe somebody else can pick up and take that load off of you so you can just create and now they can publish? Because it happened, we were just talking about a person had a book happened to be in the store. Somebody from a publisher came by, picked up the book at the store, said, "Ooh, I kind of like this." Contacted him and said, "Hey, I may want to publish this. Do you have more issues? Is it just 2?" You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that that'll happen all the time. I'm just saying it's just like, to me, use all the avenues available to you. If you're near a local comic book shop, why not go there and just talk to that comic book shop? I'm not saying call every single comic book shop that you know, but I'm just saying if you have 5 or 6 in your local area, why not just walk in there and say, "Hey, by the way, I have a book. Do you want to pick it up?" Or even when we're at conventions, that was another thing. But there at conventions, sometimes there are stores there. Why not just go up to the people at the store? You're at the convention already. Say, "Hey, I got a book. Would you like to put it on your shelves?"
Right.
But it's about building the fan base any way you can, I think,
Yes.
and you have to use every single avenue possible. But I know we got to get to Mark, so
yes. So if you have any comments you'd like to put it in the comment below. If you like this episode so far, give us a thumbs up. So we're going to bring in our guest, but before we do, we want to remind you why you need to subscribe, why you should subscribe, and we appreciate your support. Catch the Craze, but you're going to hear from our previous guest.
It's Monty Moore. I'm a 30-year comics veteran in comics, games, and movies, and you've been watching one of my absolute favorite podcasts, Catch the Craze.
You are watching Catch the Craze.
What am I listening to?
And you're listening to Catch the Craze.
Where are all the indies at?
A Catch the Craze podcast.
What are you watching?
I'm watching Catch the Craze.
What are you going to do?
Subscribe now to Catch the Craze, the #1 show online for independent.
Have you subscribed to?
If you are an independent, catch the craze. Making moves on your own, catch the craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the craze. Join the movement, catch the craze.
What's up, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch? What's going on, buddy?
I was just super intrigued by that conversation. I think a lot of what you guys are talking about is, some of the things we wrestled with and talked about, as a company this year. What's our ideas of success, and what can we do as an indie publisher, and I definitely got some thoughts on it. But I think a lot of the observations you guys made were spot on. And I think it's just a matter of what you do next, and how you approach that set of facts. Because I think a lot of people don't necessarily see the problem accurately or see the landscape of the indie comic community accurately. But I think you guys got a good beat on it.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And I think it's part of it is being honest with ourselves, right? Like what's going on and what's going on out there. How can we change it for the better for us? Because we want to keep growing this indie industry that we got going on. We've been doing this for years, and it's no matter how much you think you're going to stop doing it, you just don't. You just, because you have more stories to tell, man, and this is what you do. And no, but welcome back, Mark. Thank you so much for coming back. I was just talking to Sam. I don't know if you heard us, but you were here almost about a year ago, bro. So happy anniversary.
Yeah. Thank you. I did. There's like a little flower thing on my.
You got my flowers.
There we go.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I feel the love.
So for those who don't know Mark, you guys definitely want to check out episode 333. But really briefly, Mark, just introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us who you are and what you are currently doing.
Yeah. So Mark Bernal. In 2020, I started working on my own comics, and I started working with a handful of illustrators to start, fleshing out concept art. Fell in love with a bunch of these concept artists, and said, okay, well, maybe we don't make one comic, maybe we'll make like 3 comics, because I want to work with all these people. Yeah. And we post that stuff on Instagram, and then people started showing up out of the woodwork, right? Because they're all making comics now these days too. Hey, can I make a comic with you? Can I make a comic with you? and it got away from me. So I accidentally started a comic book company, and fast forward, year and a half or 2 years, we got 20 plus creators, illustrators, writers, and stuff that are working with us, and we have God. This summer, I thought I was going to slow down. Like after Batch 4 and Digital Lizards of Doom, I was like, oh, okay, I gotta take some time off. But books just kept showing up. These people who were like had these amazing books. We picked up 4 more books before the Chris Weigand. You had him on for Tights.
Yes.
I was blown away. That dude hit me up. He was like, hey, can I bring Tights to lesser known? I was like, why? Like, you're crushing it on your own. But dude, what a solid guy. And and I think to kind of talk about some of the stuff you were hitting on, looking at what lesser known comics can do, we can help a indie creator get their first Kickstarter launched. We can help them get convention ready, in terms of like getting the inventory and the resources they need to be successful. But for somebody like Chris Weigand with Tights is just waiting to get picked up by a bigger publisher. Most publishers, they want, right, with 4 to 6 issues, story run before. So he's going to camp out with us. His stuff's going to be in our catalog. But we already know, like, the second a big publisher calls, like we're going to be like, fly away, little birdie.
So Mark, just not to cut you up, but to your point, before I forget this, because I know that the last time you were on, you talked about that. You talked about, having some of these titles, like you said, in your catalog, and then being okay with them moving on to the next step in their evolution, so to speak. So have you had that already happen at the company, where you had some books that maybe another publisher picked them up and now they're doing their thing?
Yeah, so I think we've had some that have gone out on their own, which some of them have learned hard lessons after they left. It's hard. It's hard business out there, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And some of them, like Digital Lizards of Doom, just signed a contract with a bigger publisher. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say which one, but like, I know, like me and Gabe were talking. It was like, oh, dude, I don't know how we feel about this. It's like when your hot ex gets married, you're like happy for them, but like the sex is out of the question now. So like, like sometimes you just text me now with like a sad face emoji. He's like, I miss you,
No more.
But
no more that.
Yeah. So yeah, that is exactly what we want, because he's doing that book with a bigger publisher, and but he's bringing other projects back to me, because those other projects, like Digital Lizards of Doom, he put in the work. They didn't just show up one day and then get up. He's done a lot of work. And then we have some folks from bigger publishers like Scout and Black Caravan and stuff like that. They're coming and saying, "Hey, I got this project that's probably not going to get picked up. Can I do it with you guys?" And it's like, sure. So I want to be that AAA team where you can still get drunk and play 9 innings, and you can have fun. And then when they call you up to the majors, we'll be the first one to like do a proper send off.
That's awesome, bro. That is awesome. And I know that you guys had, when you started the company, the mantra that you guys, it was all about having fun doing what you love to do and leaving behind all of the stresses that this industry does bring to you. And I feel like, do you feel like you guys are still having fun doing it? Like, it's been a year. Like, how has that year been for you guys?
Yeah. So I definitely felt the burnout a couple of times.
Yeah.
And, I've been surrounded by some pretty awesome people. Dan Price from Bigfoot Knows Karate. I don't know if you know him. He's a good one that will kick you in the ass in the most positive way, and some other folks like Chris Weigand and stuff like that, who, really help you remember why you get into this, right? So one of the most recent things we talked about was, what metrics do we want to care about, right? And you can get caught up looking at funding goals, and you can look at comparing yourself to other people's stuff. But at the end of the day, it's backer count and returning backers, right? Like as long as that's even if it's just one more than last time, you're moving in a positive direction. And then the conventions, right? There's it's sometimes you go to a small convention, you only cover beer and gas money, it's fine. But to remember why you're doing it, I think is a big piece of it. And I think I think I may have told you last time, I see the indie comic scene the same way that the indie music scene was in the early 2000s. So what we now have is like everybody making dope stuff, and they have it on, instead of mixtapes, they have it on their indie comic. But what we don't have yet is that Warped Tour or something like that. And those, those things will come. This is still kind of, we're in our infancy of what I think is the golden age of indie comics. And we're going to see who, I don't mean this in a negative way, but we're going to see who just wanted to get out there and make a comic, and then who wants to make indie comics for a long time. And it's fine either way, right? Because some people, hey, quarantine happened, it was a blip in time, they made their comic, they made their passion thing, it's something they're going to hold forever. They're going to be like, I made this dope comic, and I'm out, and some people are going to be like, no, I want to do this, long into the future.
Right. I talk about that all the time, the long game. And I think, they're going to be the trend chasers and the trend setters, and the ones who are here for the long game. And I think the ones who are passionate about what they do are going to rise to the surface. It's going to be a longer travel road, right? It's going to be that desert, trek, right? But when you get to the other side and you get to that water, you're like, oh man, you're going to forget about that trek, and you're just going to be enjoying the water.
Yeah, and growing up playing indie music, so I played indie music from the time I was like 15 to the time I joined the Army at 20. And I was always like, oh yeah, we played like this 500-person venue, but I was always like, well, why aren't we at the 1,000-person venue? And I didn't enjoy that time as I should have, right? Because anytime you play music, whether it's for 20 people, 200 people, whatever many people, right? Like, and people are having a good time, and they're smoking out for free at the end of the show, like those are like, I remember that, right? I don't remember the money, the sales of CDs. I remember the after party. I remember meeting these bands and going on like road trips where we're like figuring out like, oh hey, I can borrow your amp and you can borrow our drums, and like smashing in a van, and just like just all sorts of like those are the things you remember. At least, I'm trying to remember that as I go forward in this, having fun where it is and not too focused on where I think it needs to be.
Yeah, I think some of our fondest memories, even with like Sam, because I've known Sam for years, it's nice to be able to sit around and say, yo, you remember when we did that? Like, I can't tell you how many books we sold at a show, but I can tell you how many books we were carrying through that storm on the way to the convention, and how many, what I mean? Like, those are the things that you kind of remember at the end of the day. And that's what makes this fun to do. It's crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah, I'll definitely remember. Yeah, first time going to LA Comic-Con and hitting up some of the guys and being like, I did not realize before I got into all this how much paper weighs. I was like,
dude.
So I'm at the airport just hating life, dude. Just hating life.
I was just saying that to my wife the other day, because I had 2 long boxes in a suitcase, and I went to pick it up, and the strap handle came off.
Done.
I was like, mother.
Done, dude. But that was cool, Mark. I did see that photo. You guys all got to get together and went to the con. How'd that go? How was that experience for you guys? Was that the first time you guys all met? I know you were doing this.
Still not even close to like getting the whole team together. So LA was probably the biggest group. I think it was 6 or 7 of us in one place. And that was cool, because it felt like the first episode of The Real World or something like that. Like they're like just showing up like at the hotel, and we're like, I guess we know each other, right?
Jonathan busting balls. But yeah, dude, that's what it's all about. Now I know that you and Jackie were on last time. Have you guys, like moved some of the people that were, in the crew, the original crew? Are you guys, have they gone on to do other things? Like what's the crew looking like nowadays?
Yeah. So I think the really tough part when I got into this was what I wanted to do was um, make as much consistency as possible, right? So like bring on illustrators and folks like Jackie and whether I was working with letters or writers and be like, hey, let's try and get books out in some sort of even clip so that we can all count on income and things like that. But being new at this, trying to project out and say, hey, we're going to get 10 books released next year or this many books released in the next month. I mean, you know how it goes with Kickstarters and stuff like that. Fulfillment takes longer than you thought, or getting the pre-launch page, getting all these things. So a lot of the folks who are full-time freelancers and stuff like that, that was less of a good fit for them because I couldn't guarantee, steady income going forward, right? So, because anytime I'm booking their time, they have to turn down another customer, So Jackie, for instance, she's a full-time graphic designer. So if I can't say, hey, I can give you consistent work, whether it's 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week or whatever, same thing with illustrators and stuff like that. So I think, so Jackie's doing full-time graphic design for another company now. And it was just because, she got to pay bills. She lives in California,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
So,
totally.
So we do balance a lot of time right now with folks who comics are not their full-time gig. It is easier for them because they have that more resiliency in the income and stuff like that to keep pushing things forward. And then also the last of the last 5 comics, 4 of them have been creator owned. So they're coming to me with a book that's already done. Right. So it's not stuff that Lesser Known Comics is paying to produce and stuff like that. We're helping them with the logistics of the Kickstarter and then helping them, achieve like discounts and stuff like that on their printing because we're able to print stuff in bulk and whatever. So right now that seems where we can kind of like focus until we can actually get like a better stride for like our actual business planning, because that's another thing too with like accidentally starting a business. You got to learn how to do an actual business, in a way, that's fair and equitable to people. So,
sure.
So yeah, the main team is still, I guess, intact, but definitely a lot of the people who are full-time freelance and stuff like that, they've been encouraged, like, hey, like if you take others' work besides Lesser Known Comics, you should put that stuff first, because Lesser Known Comics, we got 15 books that are done that haven't been released yet. So how can I start production on new books when we got so much stuff to work?
No,
through?
I hear that.
Yeah. So
and is one of those books the one that we're going to be talking about today, which is the Kickstarter that you have on right now, Either Them or Us. That's a book that's already produced, Mark, or are you still working on it, or where are you with that book?
What we're doing, so that book is it's completely illustrated. The only things that we're working through is we're on revisions with the letters.
Okay.
So so it's it's pretty much at the 1 yard line.
Nice.
So my hope was to have it done before the Kickstarter, but I ended up pushing out the fulfillment date to January anyway, because shipping during Christmas season is always nuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. It's nuts, not just because it's so busy, but also they charge you more money for shipping at that point. You know what I mean? So it's freaking nuts.
Yeah, and this will be the first time I've actually done fulfillment during the Christmas season. I think last time we did fulfillment was right before. So hopefully I'll avoid that madness. I still get Christmas cards back in the mail, right? Like return to sender from Christmas cards. I'm like, so it makes me, and that's a Christmas card, right? It costs way less than a comic book. So like,
yeah, right. But let's talk a little bit about that book, Mark. Let's talk about Either Them
bookmark.
or Us.
Let's talk about the bookmark. Yes.
Yeah. So
Either Them or Us. Awesome title, dude. Awesome title. Tell us a little bit about what that is about.
Yeah. So me and Franco Luna, he did Lesser Known Comics #3. So at that point in the story arc, our main character Danny, she's living as a witchcraft arms dealer in South America. You know, that Pablo Escobar lifestyle, but with witches.
dude. Yeah.
You know, there was these characters in there that show up in the first scene, and you know, it's these witches, and they're dropping off, you know, some weird artifact that we don't really see, and you know, Danny's putting it down in her secret wine cellar thing that's got all these magical artifacts from all over the world. And I started working on, we finished that book, and I started working with Franco on some other stuff. And he kept coming back to me. He's like, "Hey, what's the deal with these witches? The ones from Japan? Like, wait, what's the, and like, you know, who are they running for? What's this artifact about?" And I was like, "Oh, we're not going to get to that story for a while. We're going to do some other stuff." And he's like, "Yeah, but I really want to draw witches and samurais." So, you know,
That's awesome.
and you know, Franco's amazing to work with, because like we've always done that Marvel method where I tell him, you know, first panel of a page and the last panel of a page, and he gets free reign over the middle of it. And especially on fight scenes, action sequences, stuff like that. You know, when he was a kid and he was drawing in Catholic school, he used to get in trouble. You know, his parents get notes from the nuns that would be like, "Hey, your kid draws some messed up stuff." You know, little did they know he was going to make a career out of it. But
Right.
so I had written the canon of, you know, this whole backstory of the witches and samurais, and you know, them having a grudge that had lasted from the 50s to, you know, present day. But I hadn't scripted it out, you know, so me and him took some time to say, okay, let's actually make this portion of it into a comic book. So we started working on that earlier in the year, and he actually finished the book probably like around May or something like that. So we've just kind of been sitting with edits and letters. But yeah, the story is that you know, these witches and samurais have a generational long feud, you know, and essentially the samurais have been on the receiving end of that. They are just not winning, you know, generation after generation. They're just getting hunted down by these witches. And then fast forward to 1980s Japan, and with modern technology and modern weapons and things like that, the samurai finally, along with a secret weapon that they have, are gonna like start kicking some ass, you know. I think he's knocked it out of the park. I think everything, for if you like magic, if you like, you know, martial arts, and you like katanas, but you also like helicopters and like giant grappling hooks shooting through skyscraper windows, like you're gonna like, this is your book. And he's also finished pages for follow-on issues. It's just a matter of us figuring out, because we jump through time a lot, like, hey, how are we going to do this so we don't confuse the readers, and also like don't confuse ourselves, you know? So we have at least, I think, like 13 pages or something from the next issue done. That's just a matter of how we want to put those in order.
That pinup, that variant cover by Reese Jenkins.
Yeah, that's beautiful, bro.
Is just smoking.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I got to tell you about Reese. Okay, so one of those guys that, you know, you probably see him on social media. They react to everything that you post, and they're always like, you know, up in your DM and whatever, and just really cool guy. And I see him just making artwork, and I'm like, dude, this guy's really good. And with comics, you're working on the stuff today that you planned 6 months ago.
Right.
So like, I wanted to work with him, but I was just like, dude, I don't know where we're gonna fit this in the schedule. He's like, okay. And then he was like, when he heard about this book coming out, he said, I'm going to send you something. I think you're going to like it. We didn't even have a conversation about that variant cover. He just like did it as fan art. And I was just like, dude, this is insane. I was like, okay, you get to cut the front of the line now. Like, can we make this the variant cover? You know.
So the fan art he sent you ended up being that cover?
It ended up being that cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's beautiful, bro.
It's fantastic. You know, that's what caught my eye when I saw that cover. I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude.
He's got his own comics he's working on too, and I'm really excited for when those come out, because obviously like the dude's artwork is fire, and I can't wait for that stuff to come to lesser known. Got to meet him in New York. One of the few people actually, got to. It was funny. We went and got drinks. It was him and my wife, and he was like, "Hey, isn't this cool that your like husband started like this comic book company and like blah blah all this stuff?" And she was like, "Is it?"
Is it really? He made more money in the military.
That's funny, man. That's funny. So Mark, the artist Franco,
Fantastic artist.
Yeah, it's beautiful artwork. How did you guys meet? Is he part of the lesser known comics family, or are you hiring him freelance to do these incredible pages that he's doing?
Yeah, so he's one of the first ones that I started working with. We met just when I was like blindly going through like gig apps and stuff like that, being like, "Do you make art? Do you make art?" And he's been great. Not only has he worked on my stuff, but more recently he did on Batch 4. He did the Good Night book, which
nice.
my favorite quote was somebody posted something like, "Just finished Good Night by Franco Luna, and I peed a little at the end." It's spooky. Yeah, and
That's awesome.
and then he actually just put something in emailed me just like minutes before we came on here, being with another book. So he's working on some stuff. They got such a crew down there in like Argentina. The colorist is from Argentina as well. So I don't really talk to Nick Torres, the colorist, a whole lot. They kind of have their own gig down there. But those guys are just like, they were like meant to make comics together. They just, brilliant when they work together. Franco and I have worked long enough together also that he has enough confidence to change my scripts on me. He actually did change the ending for either them or us. He was
how did you approach that?
When I got the pages back, he was like, "Hear me out. Change the ending. It's better." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And it's really good, especially when you got a friendship like that, right? It's one thing to have a working relationship and you work with people, but another person who is like, because all he wants is the book to be successful. All I want is the book to be successful, and we want to be friends while we're doing it. And there's an exchange of money, and stuff like that. And this is livelihood as an illustrator and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like it's like the people that will work with lesser known comics the longest are the folks that build on the friendships within it. Because that's it's hard business being in comics, and everyone's got imposter syndrome. Everyone has days where their parents are like, "You're making comics still? Okay." You to have a community that pulls you through it, because I think he would say, if you asked him, that he's got few clients that treat him the way I do. And then I'd also say, from like, because technically he is like a freelancer, but how many freelancers like check in with you and ask like how your family is and how your mental health is and things like that, it's really cool. It's really cool to see.
There's a relationship there, it goes beyond the comics sometimes. And that's when you get some of the best work. I don't know if Sam's been laughing, but Michael Sammartino, he's been, I know I'm coming in late, but did anyone mention the cactus? He's like obsessed with the cactus behind you.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, "Can we buy the cactus?" Oh, Michael is funny. So Mark,
Just say no, kid. Just say no.
Yeah, the Kickstarter is live right now. It is and it's going to be live until November. I think it was 6th. I saw there at the bottom.
Yeah.
So look, 50 backers. You're almost at the goal, and this book looks beautiful, man. This book looks. How many pages is it?
It's 22.
22 pages. And did he do all of like the colors, inks, all that stuff? He did it himself. It's just Franco that did this.
He did the pencils and inks. Nick Torres, who's down there in Argentina with him, did the colors, and then the variants done by Reese Jenkins. And then we got a new letterer Amal Desai, who's fantastic. Because I was, yeah, one of the other things too is there's a lot of great letterers out there. You know, I use Letter Squids, fantastic. I've used a guy named Wes Locker, great guy. Micah Myers, who's got Ringo Award, nominations and stuff like that. But Amal, he's also a writer, so he'll also just let me know when my writing shit. Really, you sure you want this in the word bubble?
That's
So
good though. That's good because that is the one thing that because I letter my books, and that is one of the last things I'm able to do is change things at the very end. Like if something isn't working, I'm able to go in there and just change the dialogue a little bit. And make it look a little better. But I mean, I saw obviously the books that you guys are producing. I mean, the production value on these things, it's professional quality stuff. You guys are professionals. This isn't like, oh yeah, they're indies. That's cute. No, these are legit freaking books, man. So congratulations on everything you guys have done so far. And you have not, I mean, this isn't just it's this book, but you have a catalog of books that are also one of the tiers on the campaign. If you wanted to catch up and say, oh, what else are these guys working on, right?
Yeah, so when we run Kickstarters, there's typically just like a handful of people who will pick up the catalog because they're discovering us for the first time. There's
Right.
also the catalog will be there for individual add-ons, even though that's a pain in the butt. I wish Kickstarter would remember your rewards and allow you to import them into follower, the following thing. But yeah, so either those are available, and yeah, it's those are some of the things too. It's hard to keep up, So it's great to have such an awesome catalog, but it like also having to remember like when we do the catalog page in each book, it's like, oh wait, Digital Lizards of Doom, they're on a bigger publisher now, so we got to take them out of the catalog. Oh, we got 4 new books in, and then like move it around. And because the catalog page that will go into this book will look different than we have one more book for the year, and that'll be with Jade Louder. He's another one. He's like, can I get in there for this year? And I was like, how am I going to say no to this dude, right?
Right.
So he comes in right after. But yeah, you could read the Scott McCloud books and stuff like that, and figure out how to make comics and stuff. But the other thing that like no one ever teaches is like getting it from a finished project through the printer. Like through that could be a whole book on its own, right? Like here's all the shit that's going to go wrong from the time you have a finished book till it's in a customer's hand.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, with all of those things and all the learnings that you've taken away, what still keeps you going?
It's the part that I find the most rewarding is somebody like Jade Louder, who this dude clearly knows how to make comics, and he he was like, I don't know where to start with Kickstarter and conventions, and with a lot of artistic people, like they're good at being alone in a room and cranking out amazing work, so like the social end of it, it's all it all may seem like, I guess, pretty straightforward to me, but at the same time, it's not the part of the brain that they're exercising. Just as like maybe with a ton of hours, I could maybe illustrate like them, but not, that's just not the part of the brain that, I've been exercising at all. Right. I'm always astounded too, where like illustrators who stray away from the writing process, it's just like everyone's got a piece of it. And I think when you get a room together of a bunch of creators who have the same goal but a different set of skill sets that they're bringing to the table, like that part is what keeps me going, because then it's somebody else's, seeing somebody else's dream be carried forward, and being able to be part of that. The other day, I'll give you one of the best examples that like really energized me was David Lujan. He did this book Yuriko that just finished in Kickstarter on the 16th. He's with Lesser Known. He had those tiers with the rest of the books in it, and he sent this email to the rest of the creators on the team, and it was just like the roll up of like, here's how many of your guys' books got sold in that Kickstarter, and like they were just so stoked, right? That it's like, yeah, like they were retweeting during the campaign, but like somebody else is hustling and like not only getting their book out there, but also getting his, their, other people's books out, and that was like the part where it's just like there was like a string of emails just being like, fuck yeah, yeah, like, and I was like, yeah.
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we're at the point where we want to give you the screen, deliver your elevator pitch, tell everybody why they should back either them or us, and where they can find you on social media. So go for it.
Yeah, so either them or us. It's the first full length book that I made that's part of this lesser known universe. We got 8 other books, that kind of build out this lesser known universe that we've been working on for the better part of 2 years or something like that. And if you like magic, if you like samurais and martial arts and crazy action and stuff like that, and you also want to jump into a universe that's got different story arcs that are spread around and stuff like that, this is a really good book or group of books to start getting familiar with. And yeah, I mean, the truth is we're at the golden age of indie comics. There's so much good stuff out there, and I just feel privileged to be able to work with all these illustrators and creators, and sometimes writers that are working on my work and stuff like that, that are really part of a team and a family that not only gives a crap about making good comics, but also gives a crap about advancing the indie comic scene. But yeah, lesserknowncomics.com. We're also at Lesser Known Comics on Instagram, and then Lesser K Comics on Twitter. That was the best we could do.
Outstanding, brother.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. We look forward to see what happens.
You guys too, man.
Thank you,
brother.
thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Now you definitely have to come back, man. Whenever you guys have something else, let's not wait a year. Let's do it again. And congratulations and good luck with the Kickstarter, man. I can't wait till more people see it and back it, because I can't wait to read it once you guys get it done. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
You got it, brother. Much success to you. Have a great day.
Later, man.
Peace.
Later.
All right, that was Mark Bernal. Again, it's either them or us. Check it out right now on Kickstarter. Link is in the chat. Link is also in the summary. It is fantastic. I mean, the quality, the art, and it's funny how our conversation, and we have he's a publisher. He's an indie publisher. And how they tied into each other, with the conversation we had about the indie community. So I think it was pretty cool. And again, if you guys want us to dive into it even more on Thursday mornings, the Morning Brew, let us know. If you missed the conversation, Michael Sammartino, you need to go and rewind, play it back. We had a really good conversation today. But yeah. I'm excited for. I mean, just again. There's so many creatives out there, and then how do you choose? That's the big thing. Yeah. And speaking from an indie, right here, it's like, I mean, this year I think I backed 30 campaigns this year, so I was like, I was like, I got to slow down a little, because some of them were like at the same time. I mean, and so I was like, all right, I got to pull back. The funds are getting low. And then when it came up, I was like, wait. And then when I was looking at the list, it's like, it seems like, we're trying to pull from each other. So again, guys, you got to figure out a game plan to get yourself out there, and it's a evolving game plan. Don't get fixated on one thing, because you have to change with the time. Everything changes on a dime, and tastes change, industry change, trends change. So you got to be in tune with what's happening out there and make sure that you are in line with what's happening and that you're relevant. Doesn't mean you have to chase a trend. Just make sure that you fit somewhere in that spectrum.
Yeah, for sure, man. Listen, it was fun talking to him. I think that we got to remember when we're building that fan base, it can't just be each other promoting and helping. Well, it can't be each other, paying for our books because we're just kind of swapping money at that point. We got to try to build this community, build the fan base for the community as well. And that's what we got to figure out how to do. But yeah,
when you said that, it reminded me. It was one of those damn prison movies where the guy he passes him the shank, and he passes him the shank, he passes him the shank. That's what's happening in comics. It's everybody's just passing the money around. It's funny. But exactly, and I think that's where I'm at. Mentally coming up with my strategy going forward. What I'm gonna do. There's a lot of things I'm eliminating from my previous game plan, and some things that I'm adding to it because I tried things I didn't get the result I was looking for. It's trying to try something new, and that's basically the name of the game.
Yeah, evolution, my friend.
That's it, man.
We're back tomorrow night, right, Sammy? Live.
We are back tomorrow night. We have Mr. A. Rubin talking about Into That Darkness Peering, his book that he's written. He's going to be back on. He was a guest on our show. He's also a member of the comic book school, so he'll be back tomorrow night. And we'll also be back Thursday morning on the Morning Brew with the Crazy Crew. We're going to be talking about distractions and how much it's costing you. All those things that you're doing that's not getting you to your end game, from gaming to all these things that just distractions, and they're not helping you figure out how to grow your business and pay the bills. So we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more Thursday morning on the Morning Brew. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a thumbs up. If you watched us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, let us know what you think. We weren't getting anybody on Facebook because StreamYard was saying that the posts and comments weren't going to go through tonight because they were having some sort of glitch. So hopefully you watch it on replay. But yeah, that's and don't forget, check surveys went out today for Designated My Toilet Kickstarter. So make sure you answer those surveys. The faster you do, the faster I can start packing your stuff and getting it out to you. And don't forget to check out getyourmeds.com by Jorge Medina. And with that said, I'm Sam the Crazy Man Vera.
George the Dreamer Medina.
And we are out.
It's just easy. It's not. Crazy. Acquiesce.
No, I was talking about my friend Acquiesce. I met him. Say my name, right?
This is what you were thinking? Oh,
how you describe me? He said, I'm the
what? Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. Catch the Craze. You are listening to Catch the Craze on Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze.